Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our latest episode of the Ohio DD Talks podcast. My name is Nathan Turner, and I'm your host. Today, I'm so delighted to be discussing a very serious and important issue related to the crisis in limited direct care staffing. And today, I have two great friends joining me, Renee Wood and Bethany Toledo. So, hello to you both.
Hi, Nathan.
Before we get started, I just want to give the two of you an opportunity to introduce yourselves to our audience and kind of talk about what you do and why this issue is so important to the both of you. Renee, do you want to get us started?
Hi, I'm Renee Wood. I sit on the Ohio Olmsted Task Force. I'm now the chair of that. I also run direct workforce crisis task force through DOGD. I sit on many other councils and boards, and I've really been working on this issue for quite a while now, probably about really urgently about 5 years now.
Absolutely. Beth, how about you?
Hi, I'm Bethany Toledo, and I'm with the Ohio Alliance of Direct Support Professionals. I started my career as a direct support professional when I was 19 years old. So I've been in the field for 20 plus years, let's not put an actual number on it. OADSP was actually founded back in the early 2000s to address the workforce issues that were predicted by studies coming out of the University of Minnesota. So that's really why we exist. And we all know that the workforce crisis has been really exacerbated by the pandemic. So I'm really excited to talk with you guys today.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this discussion too. And just for the listeners, OADSP is the Ohio Alliance of Direct Support Professionals. And I want to just, as a full disclosure, I've known Bethany and Renee for quite a while. We've worked together on this issue across a wide variety of state task forces, including the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities Workforce Crisis Task Force since May of 21. So I really am excited to dive into this with the both of you and learn from the two of you and just hear your perspectives on this really important topic. And getting into things here, Renee and Beth, I hear a lot from the disability community about how the direct support professionals or direct care workers are really essential to making our days as people living with disabilities happen. So I want to hear from the two of you and your experiences. What do you hear about how the DSPs can help people living with disabilities live better lives?
Well, to me, DSPs are not a miracle thing. DSPs are someone that helps me live my life like everyone else. They help me get up, get dressed, get a shower so I can go to work, so I can go out and be in the community, so I can go out to eat and have a date. I don't picture DSP as someone that just comes in and does all medical stuff. Getting a shower is not a medical thing. It's something everybody has to do so they can get up and live the life without letting my daily life. I'm not in the community. DSP, they become your companion, in life. They do very intimate work. So of course you strike up a relationship that's only natural.
Absolutely. Beth, do you want to chime in?
Sure, sure. So and I agree, Renee, in my perspective, I've been a direct support professional and I work with DSPs every day. And, it's really their responsibility to take the lead from the people that they support. They have responsibility to learn what living a better life means to each person they support, because everyone they support is different. So that's where the relationship building really comes in. And it's their job to to help each individual live the life that they choose.
Absolutely. I think the two of you really hit on critical points about relationships and connection and the value of that in terms of the supports that DSPs provide. And I want to transition to another point, and maybe we can start with Beth about within the crisis itself. I hear about a lot of turnover and that it's hard to recruit and retain DSPs in these critically needed jobs. But I'd like to hear from both of you, but maybe we can start with Beth about why is it so hard to recruit for DSPs and why are we in a crisis at this moment?
Right. Nate, there's not one single reason or anything that we can, point to lay the blame. There are a variety of reasons. One thing we can take a look at some of the data that we do have. We can look at the census, the US Census. There are less people being born now. There are less people now than there were 5 years ago, than there were 10 years ago. And, this is a known fact. There's also a different culture of work. And that culture is influenced by, most recently, the pandemic, but also things like the gig economy and the high number of higher paying jobs for other types of work that requires little to no experience. And, when we look at the state of things right now, there are people that I know that are leaving our field and taking jobs they wouldn't have dreamed about because they love their work as a DSP, but they're leaving the field because they have to make more money to support their families. So, and there are some other things, that come into play. And some of that has to do with relationships with supervisors and really understanding what the job is. But Renee, I'm going to kind of toss it to you and let's hear what your perspective is.
Well, I'm going to be quite honest. I might get in trouble, but I've always been quite honest. I think that besides what Beth said, which she's very accurate and all that, I think for the younger people, we've experienced a culture change. I work with young people now as DSP for about a year. And I'm talking about people in their 20s. And what I'm finding out is that they just don't have the skills on how to get up and get to work. I mean, they don't, it hasn't been embedded in them somehow, to be quite honest. And I think also that the system is way too complicated for getting into the work. I'm talking specifically about independent providers, but agencies also have difficulty. An agency is there to make a profit. It's not a non-profit profession. They there to make a profit. And when they only get so much reimbursement from the government in order to make that profit, they gotta keep their costs low. And that affects wages of GSP. I just think that we gotta start. I'm getting into some now, but I think that we also need, especially with agencies, they need to let people foster a relationship with DSP. When you get a different DSP every month or every week, that is so exhausting for the individual, okay? And that you gotta retrain a new person every time. And you never build a relationship. And if you want to retain people, you gotta let them have the relationship.
I absolutely agree 110%. I know from my own personal relationships, building a long-term relationship with a DSP is just, it makes the experience so much better, because the longer someone's with you, the better they can provide that support, and the better they fit into your life without seeming as an intrusion, and they know where to fade back and where to step in. And so just having a long-term relationship really changes the quality of the support for the better.
And they are more committed because they care about you and they know your needs and they know what life is like when you don't get those needs met. So it's more of a caring relationship rather than just a commodity that they make money off of.
Yeah, I think the quality of these relationships, I think, is something we're going to revisit toward the end. So put a pin in that comment. But I want to transition back to Beth, because I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about your work, with the Ohio Alliance of Direct Support Professionals, and just what your fellow providers and your organization are doing to help resolve the crisis.
Yes, sure. Thanks, Nate. I can say that the providers that I know and the county boards, the associations, and the people that I work with, including OADSP, are laser focused on recruitment and retention efforts. And I can really speak for some of the things that OADSP is focusing on right now that does include providers and county boards and others that I mentioned. One of the most exciting things is a program that is called DSPU, and it is a program that trains high school students to become direct support professionals. And there have been different iterations of this program over the last 5 or 6 years, and we've learned a lot throughout the years. DSPU now focuses on high school seniors. So we're talking about students that are getting ready to graduate high school, and a lot of them are entering the workforce. Even if they are going to college, they're also looking for a job to support themselves while they go to school. So we have the opportunity to educate younger people about the field and what it means, and help them make an informed decision about whether they want to become a DSP. And, I mentioned earlier that I began my career as a direct support professional when I was 19 years old. And I can look back and say I had no idea what type of job I was signing up for. I answered an ad in the newspaper. So that kind of dates me a little bit. That was back when you looked at help wanted ads in the newspaper. And, I I fell in love with the field. I've seen people come and go. I've seen people, go through orientation and really, not have a connection with the field, and it was not a job that was for them. So I feel like helping educate people about the job before they take a job will be helpful as well in reducing some of those turnover rates. So that's one thing. We've been partnering with county boards and providers to really grow and expand that program. And we're currently working on a partnership with the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities and the Ohio Department of Education to help, really scale up that program over the next couple of years. So I'm very excited about that. The other thing that, so that's talking about bringing new people into the field. The other thing that we have to really look at is retention, and how do we keep the people that are here? How do we nurture them and make them feel supported and want to stay in the field? And personally, I think that, I know the last 2 years have been tough and it's been really hard to do extra stuff for staff, but we really have to start looking at investing in leadership development. And I'm not talking about leadership development only for leaders of organizations. I'm talking about leadership development at every level of an organization. We have a couple of different programs. One that I want to just speak about briefly is called the Direct Leadership Certificate Program. And it's a program that is for anyone interested in leadership. We have one organization right now that we're working with that currently has about 55 people in the program. They have everyone in their program, from direct support professionals to maintenance staff to nursing staff. Everyone comes together once a month and we focus on different areas of leadership. Most recently, we started teaching them about advocacy and why, talking about, rules. When I came into the field, I had no idea what the field looked like, and that there was kind of an ecosystem, that there was the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities and the rules and how all of that worked. So we are kind of working backwards with people that have been in the field for quite some time and helping them learn about those things and how to advocate for changes in rules. And, really that makes me even more invested in the field. And I'm really proud of that program and of hopefully in the future letting other people know about it and getting more providers to jump on board and invest in leadership development at all levels within their organization. And then I don't want to take up too much more of our time, but the other thing that OADSP is partnering with the department on, and that's the Department of Developmental Disabilities, is hosting regional meetings for direct support professionals. So we'll be putting out those dates here probably in the next couple of weeks, but during the month of December, we'll be hosting a series of 6 meetings. And we will be inviting all direct support professionals to come to these meetings. And really the goal is to learn about the experience of direct support professionals. What are they struggling with? What things would make their jobs not necessarily easier, but what kind of additional support do they need? What are some of the out of the box things that maybe we haven't thought about to help with recruitment and retention? And so I'm really excited that we'll have the ability to talk directly with DSPs and then share that information. We'll be creating some reports from all of the information we gather, and then that report will be shared with the Workforce Crisis Task Force and other groups. So hopefully that will help inform some of the decisions that are made moving forward.
Yeah, these sound like really exciting discussions to be had. I don't know if, when the dates are finalized, maybe you could produce a flyer and we'll have, DD Council send that out as a supplement to this podcast. But I want to pivot back to Renee for a second, if that's okay. I know, Renee, honestly, you're one of the strongest voices for people living with disabilities throughout the state of Ohio, and dare I say nationally. You have a powerful voice, and I know that you're a great deal. You're older than I am. There's no secret about that, and I think the way you've experienced self-determination, is incredibly different than the way I have. And I know that a big part of your success was identifying your needs. And I'm wondering if you could reflect a little bit about what you've done at your individual level to help resolve your own personal direct care crisis, and then also how you identified your needs and advocated to address them?
You know, Nick, I think that people with disability have the responsibility of learning what they need. And the reason why that helps the direct referral crisis is because when someone new comes into your home, yeah, they can read your ISP. Yes, they can read your care plan, but they have no idea what that really means in real life. So if you can do it, then you can say, I mean, imagine this, a stranger, you might have met, them once or twice in an interview, but basically it's a stranger coming into your home to help you. They walk in your house, they see you laying in bed, and like, okay, what do I do? You know, that's what they're thinking in their head. That I want to do this, but I don't even know where to begin. And that's where our responsibility comes in. That we gotta know our own needs. We gotta be able to tell them in detail how to get us iPad, how to get us on the commode. And you may think, oh, they should know that. But like Beth said earlier, every individual is different. Every individual does it a different way. And I noticed that when I can tell somebody how to do something, they are so much more comfortable with working in my home because they don't feel so lost. Um, another thing is that we also should be recruiting our own people. We should also be going out there, even if they don't work for us, we should also be telling people that people with disability need assistance and get them interested in becoming DSP, even if it isn't for us. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Well, it's up to you. I wanted to give you a lot of time to just reflect on your experiences. And I know I have another question here. Just as a result of your personal experiences and the way you're supported, you have a lot of experience with self-direction in terms of, directly working with and supervising the people that support you. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about what self-direction means both to you and in the context of resolving the crisis. And then I know you also talk about living in survival mode. And I'm hoping that you could reflect upon those personal experiences for our listeners.
I'm gonna try to take them one at a time because it seems like 30 different.
It is. It is. I apologize.
So, as far as self-direction, self-direction is really being able to control your own life and your own household like everybody else without a disability. And many times we talk about self-direction as it relates to people with DD. But quite honestly, most people with DD don't live a self-directed life. It's just a word game. It's not reality. I'm sorry, but it's not. You know, I've been lucky. You know, I'm not lucky because I'm not on Medicaid, but I am lucky because I'm not on Medicaid. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but because I'm not on Medicaid, I get more freedom over my budget. Hire my budget, who to hire, who to fire. I really do have budget authority, which budget authority is you get to decide how much money goes to what. So I get to negotiate with the people I hire, how much to pay them. You know, it's really amazing how people want different things. Like, I got people working for me right now who are okay with $14 an hour, but I'm gonna raise the pay if they show up on time. If they don't call off without a text or phone call. I got certain criteria that if they meet it, they can make more money. Other people, they don't have budget authority, so they can't make the decision. You asked me how that solve the question. I really believe self-direction is one tool that will make the difference in the workforce question, because right now they don't know who the boss. Are we the boss? When we're on Medicaid, are we the boss? The Medicaid the boss, and the agency the boss. They got too many bosses. They don't, and they are confused. Medicaid tell me I gotta do this. The agency said this, but when I get in the person's house, they want something totally different, and they don't know how to balance all that. And I don't blame them. There should only be one boss. So when you hear true self-direction, you can really negotiate your needs. I'm more than lucky because my life looks like everybody else's life out in the community. I see people with developmental disabilities who have someone show up at their house and they want to go up to the park. And that person said, well, your ISP doesn't say that. And that they never even see they never even see my ISP. They don't even know what my ISP said. My ISP is a waste of time because the only people that see it are me and my husband. You know, and I must say, ISP can help people who don't have the ability to articulate the needs. So there is a purpose for an ISP for certain individuals. For other individuals, it's just a piece of paper and it doesn't really reflect self-determination because tell me what non-disabled people live by one document for a whole year? No non-disabled person lives the same way for a whole year. And then you asked me a little bit about survival mode. Right now, I'm in survival mode, severe survival mode. I have one DSP who works Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in the morning from 10 to 1. My husband is almost 80 years old. He uses a walker. He needs a hip replacement. He can't get that hip replacement until I get the stable care. My care needs are I need to get up in the morning, I need to be fed, dressed, bathed, and all that. I need to go to the bathroom at least once during the day, and then I need to I need supper and get in bed at night. As you can see, 4 days in the morning a week is nowhere near cutting that. So what does that look like? What does that look like? That means sometimes, oh, and by the way, she doesn't always show up. I forgot that part. So that means sometimes I go 4 days without a shower. Some people might say, oh, so what? But that means I can get UTI. That means I can get lesions on my skin. And that also means that my husband, who is doing all he can, he cannot give me a shower anymore. That's just not possible anymore. Why do I call it survival mode? I call it survival mode because we're surviving to keep ourselves out of an institution. That's our main goal. Some people might say, well, why don't you just go into a ICF for respite? I rather die in my own home, and I'm serious. I'd rather die in my own home in freedom with true self-direction than ever submit myself to another direction just to get my kin. I rather begin survival mode for the rest of my life. them to reach your institution. Sorry, I know I talked too long.
No, that's perfectly fine. I thank you for sharing your testimony and your experiences because I think it's going to inform so many and motivate others. So I just want to thank you both for your time. We're kind of getting toward the end of our podcast, and I want to respect both of your time as well. So I do thank you both so much for coming on, and I will be in touch soon.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank
Yes, thank you,
you.
Nate.
All right. Bye-bye. This was just a really interesting episode for me. I know Beth and Renee really, really well. They really focused on the importance of building connection and relationships, which I think is important for anybody going into a direct care job. But what stuck with me was the latter part of the episode where Renee talks about survival mode because for a lot of us, having a DSP might mean getting out into the community, but for more of us, we rely on them. They're critically a lifeline. And so without that support, our lives are dramatically different. We're surviving, living to survive and stay in our homes. And just our life is not the life that we want for ourselves. We don't have that support. So just being able to raise attention to the issue, encourage someone to, give being a direct care provider a try, or even being able to advocate to policymakers on, investing in Medicaid are critically important facets to this issue. And I'm so excited that we could have this discussion and do our small part to elevate this on behalf of the Ohio DD Council. Well, that's our show, everyone. I want to thank you all for listening. I want to thank Renee and Beth for coming on and joining us to talk about the direct care crisis. And I want to remind you that as the listeners, you all drive this show. So we hope that you continue to share your experiences with us on social media, and maybe we'll use some of that feedback to shape future episodes. So again, I thank you for your time, and until next time, my name is Nathan Turner, and this is Ohio DD Talk.